Guys, Omo, I see this news today. Hey! The thing sweet me. It don't choke everywhere. This Niger will conduct coup for their country. Will conduct coup where Nigeria and ECOWAS want to go and invade. Do you know what they did? They assigned a new prime minister. They assigned a new prime minister. He's an economist to take care of the country, to build the country's economy. Hey! This is the best news I've ever had in Africa. That's what Africans should be doing. They conducted coup. It's not that the military want to be in charge, but they want somebody to change the country, and that's what they did. Hey, this is the best news I've ever had in my life. This is the best news I've ever. Just read it. It's on the screen here. Just be reading it. All these African corrupt leaders. That's what they should be doing them. Corruption in Africa is something else. It's something else. I know there's corruption everywhere. But African corruption is visible to the blind and audible to the deaf. This is what we should be doing. Kick them out. Carry somebody who go make that country better. Put them for them. You see, Nigeria don't fear. Our president don't fear. All these West African countries, they don't fear. It's turn by turn. It go each in a turn. This is the best news ever. The best news ever. This Niger coup, I support them. In fact, may Nigeria no even try invade that country. Make them no try. They want invade country. US military distant base is there. US is not saying anything, and Nigeria won't carry everything for head. Wait it. Don't joke. This news is the best news ever, I swear. You don't show. Well, Niger Republic, that was a very good one, to be honest. That was to me, personally, I love what they did. It's not that the military did coup, they want to take over. No, they just want somebody that will make the country better. They just want somebody that will treat the citizens better. That's what they need.
Niger's military coup leaders have announced the appointment of a prime minister. In a statement read out on national television on Monday evening, Ali Mohammed Lamin Zein was announced as Prime Minister. The announcement comes at a time when the international community is seeking to restore constitutional order.
Niger's military junta leader, General Abdurrahmani Tchiani, has named a former finance minister as a new prime minister following the July 26 coup. Ali Mohammed Lamin Zein replaces Mahamadou Ouhamadou, who was in Europe during the coup. Mr. Zein, reported to be in his 50s, served as cabinet director and finance minister from 2001 until the overthrow of the late former president Mamadou Tanja by the army in 2010. Mr. Zein, whose new position was announced by a junta spokesperson on state-owned television station, has worked for the African Development Bank in Chad, Ivory Coast and Gabon in recent years. Meanwhile, other military appointments were announced. And delegations from Mali and Burkina Faso's military governments have assured Niger's military coup leaders of their full support in a solidarity visit to General Abdurrahmani Tchiani in Niamey, the country's capital. This comes as regional bloc ECOWAS is set to hold a summit to discuss the next move against Niger's junta. An ECOWAS deadline to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum was ignored by military leaders, and he is still being held captive. They remained defiant in the face of sanctions and threats from ECOWAS, including a military intervention that the bloc said would be a last option. Mali's military government spokesman, Abdoulaye Maiga, described the ECOWAS sanctions on Niger as illegal and illegitimate. Meanwhile, residents in the Niger capital have welcomed the arrival of military delegates from Mali and Burkina Faso in the hopes that troops from the region's other junta-led states could help protect the leaders of Niger's recent coup from a potential show of force from West African nations. Asked about the visit of the delegations, a resident, Abdul Aziz Mahamani, said in his words, "I think it will help us fight terrorism more effectively and pool our forces." Another resident believes it's common sense to join forces in the face of danger, and the best solution for Niger is for Mali, Burkina Faso, and all those concerned to put their hands together to eradicate the scourge. Mali and Burkina Faso military leaders last week warned against an ECOWAS military intervention in Niger, saying it meant a declaration of war. Well, it's the same show of support as students at Niger's largest university say they are ready to lay down their lives for the new military regime that overthrew democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum last month. For some, when it comes to their homeland, no sacrifice is too much, as they are willing to take up courage to defend their country. This is coming after the coup leaders who call themselves the National Council for Safeguarding the Homeland, in a statement called on young people to mobilize in the event of an ECOWAS intervention. The Economic Community of West African States, which has sent military forces into troubled member states in the past, told the junta to stand down by Sunday, but coup leaders instead closed Niger's airspace and pledged to defend the country. In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has expressed Washington's full support for the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS in its efforts to restore constitutional order in Niger following the recent coup. Speaking in an interview, Mr. Blinken said that he had been in touch with Niger's deposed president, Mohamed Bazoum, saying it was crucial the democratically elected government be reinstated. He also noted that Russia's Wagner mercenary group is taking advantage of instability in the country, warning that if Russia's mercenary group Wagner were to be deployed to Niger, there would be an increase in deaths, destruction, exploitation, and rising insecurity. However, Mr. Blinken said he did not think Russia or Wagner instigated the military takeover. Meanwhile, United States Department spokesman Matthew Miller says U.S. aid programs to the government of Niger that have been paused over a military takeover in the country are valued at more than $100 million. Speaking at a press briefing, Mr. Miller said hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. assistance is at stake if the country's junta does not reinstate the elected government.
Staffing. The Secretary announced on Friday also that we are pausing assistance to the government for the time being. That assistance will affect development aid to the government, security aid to the government. It's a significant amount. I don't have a number because it's a pause, and it's a pause that we would hope would be reversed if the junta leaders would step aside and restore constitutional order tomorrow. That pause would be the pause would go away and security assistance would be reinstated. But as we've made clear, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake. Again, it is a number over $100 million, but it's hard to give an exact amount because one, we just made this pause.
How much money you're giving to Niger?
We don't know how long this pause will be in effect. If the pause,
no matter how long it's going to be.
Now
something like this, you should have an idea of what it is that you're.
Here's the reason.
Stopping,
sometimes there are payments that are made in one big lump sum. Sometimes there are continuing payments that go on once every. I'm not going to say a period, but and so
the program's paused, but certainly
over $100 million. I don't have a list of specific programs, but they are development assistance, security assistance, law enforcement assistance, and other programs that aid the government of Niger.
Elsewhere now, residents in Ethiopia's Amara region say intense fighting between local militias and government troops has continued today as violence shows no sign of abating. According to the residents, the clashes include the firing of heavy weaponry, raising concerns over safety of civilians. Fighting has also continued in the industrial city of Debre Biran, 80 miles north of the country's capital, Addis Ababa, where residents reported seeing drones hovering. Activists linked with the militias have reportedly claimed control of additional small towns and villages. However, the head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who is an Ethiopian, has expressed concerns over the ongoing violence in his country. Meanwhile, a senior Ethiopian official accused militiamen in the Amara region of seeking to overthrow the regional and federal governments following days of fighting that led the authorities to declare a state of emergency. Clashes between Fano militiamen and the Ethiopian National Defense Force are continuing. The conflict has quickly become Ethiopia's most serious security crisis since a 2-year civil war in the Tigray region.
It is a force of bandits creating a problem by being led with the intention and goal of dismantling the regional government and then going after the federal government. I call upon anyone included in this informal organization of bandits to refrain from this path of self-destruction immediately and come to a peaceful solution.
Let's get more on this crisis. Joining me now is senior editor VOA's Africa division, that's Salim Solomon. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
So help us understand the situation in Amara. What really is fueling the clashes between local militias and the army?
Well, thank you for that. Ethiopia is coming out of very very definite.
Seem to be having some audio problems from